check which time they are. I think they are violet.
It's rolling.
Okay, so Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala khatamil nabiyyin wa imamil mursalin nabiyina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. The issue of the need for messengers. Yeah, I don't know how to start this issue because I know that some Islamic groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir say messengers are needed to enact laws for human because human beings cannot regulate for themselves properly, and even if they regulate, then the regulation would not be the perfect one, etc., etc. I don't feel very strong about this kind of argumentation because it seems to be coming from the mentality, philosophical mentality, that Allah is obliged to do something for the benefit of the creation. And this usually will not stand in the scrutiny. It will end in the problems which Christianity have, that God is loving, and then you have the problem, where is the tsunami and all this nonsense? It comes from the definition of loving. That's not proper, that's not going to get anywhere. And someone could tell you God did all what he supposed to be doing by creating you and giving you reason and mind. So why should he bother giving you your own law? You should do your own law by yourself, possibly. So this argumentation is futile. And there are many things which can be regulated differently in various laws, relatively equally efficiently. There are various variations. So why specifically for that? So this is not a good argument. Besides, it's not really the Quranic argument. Quranic argument is the Messenger are sent because Allah created the universe to be a testing domain. It's a kawn ibtila'i. It's a testing universe. And he says clearly in the Quran, وَالَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. He created life and death to test you who is performing best deeds. And best deeds defined elsewhere by مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. I did not create man and jinn, spirits and humans, except to worship me, or more exact thing, the meaning of worship is to obey me. That's the meaning of worship. Worship is not just bowing up and down. This is not worship. This only idiots could think that's worship. These are just rituals. One Sharia may enact lighting candles as an act of worship, another Sharia will make it a mockery. It is not an act of worship. Even prohibited completely inside the temples or the worship house. So this is nonsense. Worshipping meaning obeying the commands. So testing by obedience. And there are various hadith about the testing. The famous hadith about that when Allah created the paradise, he sent Gabriel, go and check the paradise. He saw the paradise, said, by your glory and exaltation, nobody hears about this paradise will even hesitate to work for it, to achieve it. Say, okay, don't make too quick conclusions. Go now, watch what's happening there. So when they say the paradise is surrounded with all hateful and difficulties, and say, by your exaltation and glory, I'm afraid nobody will ever enter paradise this way. There are so many hardships and temptation preventing you from entering paradise, then there's very little hope like it. And then he created the hellfire and said, go show it, take a look at the hellfire. And he said, if someone hears about that, it's enough to deter him. So now go and take a look again, and he was surrounded with desires and temptations. So it's very clear that this is the whole concept of the Quran, all the previous revelation, is that this universe is a testing universe. That's a divine decision to make the creation into two phases. One phase of testing, where rational, responsible beings are created who will have to make their choices, and later on then, the one who passed the test will be in the dwelling with the divine. Like, what is his name? J. Smith say, walk forever with God, walk forever. Okay, walk or sit, whatever you like. An expression, I'm not going to waste the time. And with other things thrown in by nice things like nice fruits, nice beautiful women, which the Christian will be abhorred, claim to be abhorred. Although they are indulging in these things much more than anybody else, but that is not our topic today. So, it's the testing universe. And the necessity of reason may dictate, made clear to you that there's a divine being, and rationally, if he's the supreme being and the ultimate and the reference frame for everything, then he should be respected and obeyed. Yes, but does he want that? In the sense that, is he going to ask you about that, account you or not? It looks quite remote that he will create rational beings who will think about that without that he is interested that they will do the job properly or something like that. It looks quite remote. That is just created for the joy of creation. But it's possible. There's no rationally, I think, solid proof that it is impossible or it contradicts the divine wisdom or divine characteristics to create some creation for pure joy. Just a pure joy of creation and pure pure enjoyment of company of rational creation. Like in paradise it will be forever, just pure joy of being in companionship. So there's nothing really irrational about that in itself. So, question, is he going to ask us? Is he going to discuss, to account us? Is he going to punish and reward or not? If it's a testing universe, then it's clearly then the testing for what? There's a result of that testing. That it's testing universe full of hardship is clear, but it may be that the way it is, there's no other way. And atheists will say that's the machinery, but one believing in a divine being will say that's the way he creates things, but does it have another purpose further? The best thing is to go to the revelations, all the scriptures claim to be coming from revelation, which are essentially the Judeo-Christianic and Islamic scriptures, because other scriptures are not really claiming to be revelation in that sense, or putting a way of life. They may give you some moral injunction, some funny, nice stories about Ram and Sita and things like that, which you can enjoy and make movies about. But revelation, in the sense that will guide your life, in that sense, no. It's just things which you can take examples and metaphorical expressions, but really with injunctions and orders: do not do, punish, do this. Only these Jewish, Christian, Islamic scripture have that, and they are all clearly in agreement that he's accounting for. He gives commands which address to beings who have a free will and capability of executing the commands, and he will be accounting of them for that. Now, that cannot be known unless he tell you what he wants, and in a way which is sufficiently convincing and sufficiently persuasive, so that the accountability will make sense. If it does not, if it's in a dark way, then it doesn't make any sense. Now, this could happen in various ways. One way is to reveal to every person, but if he reveals to every person, then the issue of testing has expired, lost its meaning. Because if you are receiving revelation, either this revelation is for you, the recipient, is so evident and so persuasive as to be a certitude, like the revelation to messengers. As we know, the messenger is certain about his revelation, that he's received revelation. He has no doubt about his own status as a messenger, and that what he's receiving is from Allah, from God. If it is so, then the testing is gone, because you become essentially having the conviction which cannot be overridden. So it has to be to selected people. So that's where the messengers issue comes, that they have been selected people, few people selected to bring the message to mankind. They have been given sufficient evidence, but these evidences again testing for you, studying the evidences, balancing them, taking the balance of evidences, also overcome the temptation of rejecting a messenger because it's not from your own people, or rejecting a messenger because he's black and you are white, or he's white and you are black. All of these part of the testing. Are you going to comply with that what the messenger is reporting to you, despite the messenger may be not to your liking, despite you may have thought you ought to be the messenger, you are more virtuous than this so-called messenger, and so on. All of that is part of the testing. So it's a complex, universal scheme of testing, including sending the messenger. But the messengers are the one who will bring the message to the people in such a way that those who receive the message from the messenger and study it will have, if they do the rational and the reasonable choice, will have no other option except to believe in the messenger and follow him. And those who have rejected are those who have chosen to reject because they could not overcome their own hubris, their greed for power, their own greed for wealth, or their own desire for supremacy at any cost, like the people of Pharaoh. They have recognized that Musa and Harun are prophets, but if we are going to follow two slaves and lose all this power and kingdom, and we have first state and first power, right? Out of question. We are going to reject them and say publicly that they are liars, although they know in the bottom, in the depth of their heart, that they are not liars. So that's it. So question: need for messengers. The only rational, I think, defensible answer can be found from the revelation and from the fact that the universe is a testing universe, is that they are needed to bring the message in such a way that the accountability in Yawm al-Qiyamah makes sense. Because Allah cannot account you except for the sins you have committed, for your misdeeds if you have committed misdeeds. And there is no way to know that this is a misdeed unless you have an evidence for that from the messenger. And no way to know about the existence of Allah in a persuasive way that He is interested to address you except through the messenger. You may have a very defensible, rational proof that He exists, but He creates for the joy of creation. He will not address you anything. This is what they call it the deist point of view, or a semi-deist, between theist and deist point of view. That he's maybe a personal God, but he's not interested in being commanded. He's not a commanding God, he's just a creative God. He enjoys creation. Yeah, he's creating by free will, that's all, but he's enjoying just creation without having any...
But then that's not rational, is it?
What is not rational?
I mean, I understand what you're saying.
It's very remote, but it is not something which you can ontologically show to be impossible.
So if you're having a debate with an atheist will say, okay, fine, I accept that there is a God, you've proven that, but you're expecting me to jump from God and then to follow scripture, and you've not given me the intermediary.
Actually, no, the intermediary is very clear now with the rational necessity now. If that hypothesis is on the table, then we have to check if there are really messengers who have come. If none has come, then we are out of the trouble. Now, obviously, the divine does not want to address us with anything, or command us, or prohibit us anything, or inform us about anything, leaving us on our own, enjoying ourselves, but he enjoying this big theater called creation. That's, as I said, this is a bit remote.
No, but we're talking about the need. So what I'm saying is...
No, maybe there's no need. That's what I say, there's no need. If you say, do we need messengers? Only if Allah is going to account us, then it makes sense to talk about need. There's no need. If they come, they will tell you, have come, bring you a message from Allah, you will be accounted, I will be punished or rewarded. That's how they'll come. So if there's any need really, it is the need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He want to account you, because He cannot commit the injustice, because He has prohibited Himself from being unjust. It contradicts His holiness. Unjust being that I account you without giving you the information or based on which to account. This would be utterly, evidently irrational and illogical. And Allah would be undermining His own holiness. So say, I will account you, but on things which have been reported to you, message you have received convincingly. And that's the reason the one who did not receive the message, or one who received the message mutilated, but he tried his best and could not reach the message, is not subject to any punishment yet, until he tested the game. And there are various hadith in that. We're not going through these fine points. But the point is that the usual approach that, without messenger, human life would be miserable, I think this is not defensible. That's not a good way to say things. Human life will be human life. Will be the same. Even after messengers. You suffer diseases, you die, etc. Your life may be messed up. Even if you have a Sharia proper marriage, most likely it will be percentage-wise more successful, but for individual person, his wife may make his life hell, and maybe a kafir wife would be nicer, or a kafir girlfriend would be nicer. That's all possible. That is not going to solve really the fundamental problem. Not for that reason Messenger have been sent to give you laws and make your life nice. That's not the purpose of sending the Messenger. The purpose is لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَى اللَّهِ حُجَّةٌ بَعْدَ الرُّسُلِ. We have sent messengers warning and bringing the good news so that people have no argument against Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because Al Qiyamah can say, yes, we have reason, we have rationality, but we don't know what you wanted exactly. There are various rational possible options. Even if like some people will say the covenant of fitrah, of intrinsic nature, which is symbolized in the Quran with the ayah of the taking the covenant from the children of Adam when they are still in the back of their parents. And Ibn Abbas and other Mufassirin say it is the covenant of fitrah that's impregnated in your heart that your Lord is Allah. But also, what about this Lordship? Yes, I acknowledge that you are my Lord, but what does it mean? Which commands you have? Which Lord means commanding one. What did you command me? What are the commandments? What do you want me to do? Yes, I acknowledge you, my Lord. You may be in trouble if you say, I don't acknowledge Allah as my Lord. Then you might maybe say, okay, you have violated the covenant of fitrah, you have undermined reason. But even someone could argue, say, okay, I was stupid, but I didn't have any message clearly saying, if you are stupid, I'm going to punish you. Because stupid is not necessarily punishable until you tell me that you will punish the stupid one. It's bad rationally, but that's all. It is despicable rationally, but doesn't mean it's deserving hellfire or paradise yet. This is another issue altogether. Because something being rationally bad or ugly, like lying and so on, or because it undermines the fact that the truth having the highest value, all what says is that you are worthy of condemnation of rational beings. That's all. But does not mean that you deserve, for example, to be crucified or quartered in the time they use the quartering punishment or put to death under the guillotine. Doesn't mean that. You have to have more injunction about that. And that's what the messengers are all about. even the acknowledgement that Allah is your Lord, which is imprinted in the genes, let us say, in the fitrah, and possibly with the so-called God complex in the brain is there, all that is itself alone without any messenger is empty. It's just acknowledging, yeah, He's the Lord. He has the right of command. I have no commands. What are the commands? What I'm supposed to do? Since He did not send any messengers, I will live the way I live. I will try to be as rational, as good as possible, according to rationality, and that's all. And even in that, there is no reason to believe there will be accountability based on that alone. No compelling reason. It looks near that if you are living a moral life according to reason, a rational God should be rewarding you for that. But is that really a necessity that is inescapable? No. Only if you're told, I'm going to count you, and you will have to have the two options. You will have a reward or punishment. Even someone could assert the case, there is no compelling reason really to believe that a rational being must be resurrected for Yawm al-Qiyamah. Maybe it's just the universe is one phase. And this testing is not a testing, it's just the way the universe works, and you have to live through it. It's just qadar, you have to accept it. That's the way existence, that's the price you pay for being in existence and enjoying a life of rationality for a limited time. There's nothing compelling of necessity of reason forcing that you must be resurrected. You have to receive a report about a convincing report from revelation, because this is a possibility. It's not a rational setting. It is, as I said, rationalists will say a rational some kind of a rational or really a knowledgeable God would not create rational beings who can ponder about life and death and so on without really intending to resurrect them and account them with that. This looks very, very reasonable, but it's not in the sense that it is like 1 + 1 is equal to. It's persuasive that you cannot say that the other option is void or can be proven to be impossible. So need for messengers in the way some Islamists say that you need it to make your life happy, and is similarly to is much better obviously than the Christian claim that a Satan God or some kind of a deity died on the cross for your sake or something like that. But it will, if it develops further, it will end in the same level of irrationality. That's not the way it is. The reality is this is the testing universe, and that testing will be followed by accountability about the testing and how you endure the test and how you pass the test, and there will be reward and punishment. And for that, you need the messengers to bring that in such a way that nobody has an excuse, except the one who did not receive a messenger, or the one who has no capability to understand the messenger, like they're mentally retarded and so on. They are excluded and they have their own special treatment. But the general, average human being will have that. Will have this capability and access to the messengers normally. And if he has the access, then he is responsible. If he doesn't have access, he is not responsible in the court of Yawm al-Qiyamah. And the messenger is the one who will tell you that there is a resurrection, because it's a report from the divine who knows and who is capable of doing it. Because they said rational analysis would not bring that beyond doubt. It shows that it's a possibility. It's not impossible as some atheists claim. This is absurd. It's clearly a possibility. And you can construct many models for resurrections, whatever you want. That's very easy to understand, provided there's a creative agent who is omnipotent and omniscient. He will be capable to keep all your records, your soul on record, and resurrect you in the same body or another body. That's not a problem.
How come he didn't give us a choice not to take the test?
This is not possible in this is that there's a fundamental decision, that's like qadar. That's the way your universe is constructed. Because if you look at it as the following way, if you want to have the choice to be tested, you must be a sufficiently rational human being, sufficiently knowledgeable, sufficiently capable of making the choice or not making the choice. The question, what will be the repercussion of either one of them? What will be the repercussion of either one of them? And what will be the result? And if you are at that level, already the damage is done. You must have lived until 18, 20, gained sufficient knowledge, and then you are stuck already in a universe with testing and problems. So the choice has to be done in advance. There is no other one. This is the question, like any question of qadar, why he shows this universe or not another one, or just right away a paradise. It would be very kind to have right away a paradisical state forever.
It's not really a choice then, is it? Because if
it's not a choice, but this would have been sounds gentler and kinder. And that's where the people always say, he's enacting these laws for your human benefit, or his son died on the cross. No need for the son to die on the cross. Just create a paradise and leave the people enjoy themselves for eternity to start with. It doesn't make any sense.
I never chose to be born,
Yeah.
and I never chose to enter into the test.
Yeah.
So I
But
guess
there's no way to give you the choice, because the moment you are given the choice, you have already grown up and be in such a level of sophistication, passed through these stages, that already the damage is done.
They could argue that's God. There could be another way. There's other possibilities for him.
No, there's not rationally no other possibility. There's not. That means the possibility will be that
what possibilities he's got in front.
That will be the same atheist argument. Will be done. He can't do the impossible. Will be he can exist and doesn't exist at the time. Then all rationality.
It's not.
It is the same.
It's not something that's to do with impossibility.
It is
a way,
because the concept of free choice must be a free chooser there, and if it's a created being, he has to be there and choose to choose. He cannot choose before he exists.
No, he never asked that. He said, "I don't want." Why didn't he give us a choice to be tested? Not give us a choice to.
No, he didn't give a choice to be tested. You will be tested. No choice. There's no way to
so
give you a choice.
therefore
Because giving a choice, you have.
What you asked.
That's injustice. Maybe I should
I
have had the
was about to
choice
say,
to
I
say,
should have
I
had
don't
the
want to
choice.
take this test, I don't want to come to life.
It's
Yeah.
too difficult.
But you cannot do that, because you will be to make a choice. You have to be a choosing being, and you have to be in that universe at least. You have to grow to a certain age, and the test is already done.
yeah.
And
So
the
the only thing that has made a choice here is God. God hasn't given. I'm going down the
Oh,
line.
no doubt about that.
So there is no choice for us. We have.
No, the choice of this type of universe is done by the divine.
It's my way or the highway.
Yeah,
essentially.
that's what he said clearly in the hadith. Who does not accept my qada should leave the universe and go to another God. There is none. It's impossible. It doesn't work. It's impossible. It cannot be constructed.
So then, how do you get out of the arguments of then justice and injustice? Because then,
The justice and injustice will be only if he does not give you the capability to pass the test with flying colors if you choose to pass it. So you have to pass it or to fail it. You may say, I'll fail it, please. I prefer to be my own Lord and I reject your command. And in hellfire, fine. Well,
and where does that definition come from?
which definition?
What you've just given about justice, that as long as you have the capability.
What is the definition of
I mean,
justice?
that's rational,
What is
I'm
justice?
assuming.
Yeah. What is the definition of justice?
I don't know. Is there a Sharia definition of justice?
No, there's a rational definition. Justice is that I reward you according to your deed and punish you according to your deed. If I punish you where we did not commit any misdeed, or I can reward you without your deed. That's mercy and gift. But punishing without being guilty of anything contradicts the concept of punishment.
So justice is to do with reward or punishment, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's it. That's the basic issue. The other thing, so absolute justice does not exist. It's just an imaginary concept some Christian try to develop, which has no standing. It doesn't
So
stand
what about I am only accountable for the things that I do
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
don't do?
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to be punished.
For whatever other people
I
do.
have not done. So I'm not necessarily being rewarded and I'm not being punished.
That's the punishment. The reward part, he promised reward now.
No, but
As a
I'm not.
balancing.
No, but I'm just saying that's you're saying is that reward and punishment is justice. So if you're rewarded, it means that that's justice,
Reward could be a gift.
right?
Could be a gift.
It could
but,
be a gift.
But punishment is definitely nobody can be punished unless he committed something
Because-
worthy of punishment, and he has been given the information this is a crime, so he has to know it's a crime, and he has the choice and sufficient capability to do it. So there's some question which some old philosophers discussed, especially in the Islamic domain: is it possible for Allah to command the things exceeding your ability? Taklif bima la yutaq. Is it possible that you? And some Ash'ari said it is possible, but it's not. They made a mistake there, because if I made the taklif bima la yutaq from an all-knowing being, I know that you cannot do it. And I say, do it while I know you cannot do it. This is impossible. This meaning I'm just like a tyrant could tell you,
Fine.
fly in the sky without wings or any machinery. If you don't fly, I'm going to tell my torturer to beat you up. They will beat you up. He can't do that. It is possible. It can be done.
Fine. So that's
But
so
not,
that,
that's Allah is
so
above that.
that's
That's
one
His
form.
holiness.
So that's one form of how we understand justice. I'm saying that if there is a crime that has been committed,
Yeah.
justice to me is, and I never committed the crime. Justice to me is not to be accused of the crime that
Absolutely.
I didn't commit.
Will not
So
be
now
accused.
that's justice.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with reward or punishment.
No.
So I'm
So
fine.
you are not punished.
So
What you did not
so
do.
reward
Yeah.
and punishment isn't
No,
the
no,
definition
no.
for
But
justice.
punishment is connected to a crime. There cannot be punishment without a crime. and for the one who committed the crime with sufficient capability of being accountable, sufficient reason, sufficient rationality, and sufficient knowledge and free will. If, for example, someone is under duress and he is forced to do a crime and he cannot defend himself and he is not responsible. We know that action under duress is not responsible. You have to have really sufficiently free will. You have to have really sufficient information and knowledge to make an informed judgment. Then it is a crime.
Allah is adl.
Yeah.
What is
That's it. He doesn't commit injustice. That's it.
He doesn't. So adl is that he doesn't commit injustice.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only meaning. It has no other meaning. It's not a divine name, adl actually, but Hakim, perfectionist, putting things in the right place. Putting in the right place is that.
But adl is not one of his sifat.
Is not one of the divine names, because it doesn't make any sense in that way. And even if you see what Hadith say, he said, "I prohibited injustice on me, so don't be unjust to each other." I could have been unjust if I wanted, because it's accessible. It's very easy. Go to any tyrannical regime and oppose the regime and run away from the country. They will take your family and torture them, although they did not do anything. This is plain and clear and rationally undefensible injustice, which is easy to do. That's not a problem. And Allah is capable of doing it, but He never did it, and He will never do it for all eternities, because this will contradict His holiness and His high rank. Not because it contradicts logic absolute, which is impossible in itself. No, but it is Allah prohibited Himself. That's what expression used by the Hadith. Al-haramtu dhulma ala nafsi fala tadhalamu. I prohibited myself from being unjust. Don't commit injustice to each other. That will be.
You have to see the justice in this world.
No. This is another issue that where it will be seen and so on. In Yawm al-Qiyamah, all scores will be settled, because you cannot settle all scores unless you start from point zero and then one by one, because some injustices committed today are related to injustice committed yesterday and to action of your parents and grandparents. They must be accounted before, so it must be the roles will be open from the beginning to the end. Otherwise, the scores can never be settled, and that's the reason judiciary will never go back for hundreds of years, because it's impossible to get all the facts and information. So I'll tell you, my son, what happened with the grandfather, you couldn't do anything. You can't only just summarily condemn it or praise it, that's all. We have to deal with things as the reality as now. Who owns something now? You know, for example, this house, 2000 years was owned maybe by Britons, this place. And then the Saxons came and kicked them out and occupied the place. And then Norman came and kicked them out. We cannot go that far back, because now we don't know who kicked whom, to whom it belongs. We cannot give it to the great son of the original Briton. And even someone could say that Britain took it actually from wild animals. Why they're supposed to have no right? So, although by animals we have a bit more of liberty because of other reasons. But so you see, it cannot go. But Allah is able, because He will start from zero and then get the book going one by one and settle the accounts as they come along. But this is the details of the justice in Yawm al-Qiyamah. But to the fundamental point is that the question of that I didn't get any choices is impossible. This is rationally impossible, because to be given a choice, you must be a choosing being. Choosing being must have reached a certain level of capability, a certain level of knowledge. And then he has passed in the universe, and he's already in the testing universe, already in the mess.
But I suppose on an empirical level, it doesn't make a difference about choice, because Allah, the Creator, has the choice to do what He wills.
Yeah, I said this is the deepest level of qadar, is that ultimately, either even the atheist cannot run away from that. Either it's the divine who made the fundamental choice of a time of the universe or two, and there's no other choice. Nobody else is there to choose, and it's impossible to have anybody else there because they are not created yet. So that has to be done. There's no other escape. It's impossible otherwise. Or, and as we say, the universe is like that. This is by necessity of physics and physics. You don't like tsunami, you like them, you can scream at them, you can condemn them, they will come and sweep you away if necessary. That's going to happen. So you like it, you dislike it, that's it. You find it regretful, not regretful, it doesn't happen. This is all human emotions which have no value whatsoever. So this is the basic fundamental issue of qadar, cannot be run away from. Nobody can run away. No atheist and no theist, no deist. Nobody can run away. There will be ultimately an irreducible core which is done against your will and before your existence, and it has been done and settled and forgotten, and nothing can be done about it. And that's the reason the hadith said, if you don't accept my qadar, mean the fundamental choice in that sense, then you have to leave my universe and exist my earth and my heaven, which is impossible. Meaning there's no other way.
You know,
Just come to your senses is not possible.
talking about the choice being in this world, I thought, didn't I read in the Quran where it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the heavens and earth if they would want to be responsible?
This is most likely metaphorical, because the meaning of that is only that there are grand creatures, but they are not equipped with rationality and free choice.
What is the ayah? Sorry.
When عرضنا الأمانة, we have offered the covenant to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they said, no, we don't want to accept it. No, we know the heavens and they do not have any mind of any meaning, of any really discernible specification which you can tell to be rational beings. So this is a metaphorical of that these great, huge beings, they don't have the power of reasoning, and they don't have the free will, so they are not responsible. And metaphorically, if they have been offered that, they have rejected it. Stated differently, Allah created them so that they cannot accept the covenant anyway. So by their mere type of creation, they are not capable of carrying the covenant. So it has to be understood this way.
Yeah, but then it goes on to say that he asked the insan.
No, he didn't ask it. وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ. Human being accepted it.
What does that mean?
So what is it? Because they have rationality, they created this way. By being an insan, they are already capable of accepting the covenant, and they accepted it.
They accepted it. So
Yeah.
in a way, like what the brother was going to say, it was offered to them.
No.
Yeah, let's say it's
Accepted.
okay. Let's offer to Adam. It's not offered to you.
It was offered to, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is not offered to you. The same problem is there. You are not being asked in the womb. Are you willing to go out, or just you expire there?
I prefer to expire there, but
Yeah. It is not possible.
you
But it's an
can't-
issue of qadar. There's no
yeah,
way
but
to
you-
solve that
yeah,
problem.
but you
There's no
can't
solution for that
say
problem.
that it's impossible for him
Yeah, it's impossible. Because
for
for that you
not
have.
to give you a
Yeah, it is no.
it's
That
a way
that
of him giving you a choice. You can
that
say,
for
do you
example,
want
that
to
for
be tested or not
yeah,
tested?
it could have been the following. Essentially, what it will be that you, for example, when you reach a certain age, a certain rationality, then suddenly an angel appears in front of you and tells you, listen, do you want to continue existing, or you just cease to exist and become dust? You have the choice now, today. But if that's the case, then all the testing universe have disappeared. It's not because every an angel appearing in front of you will with certitude in such a way that you have a real choice. Because if it is questionable, say, is that my imagination, or did I yesterday have maybe one marijuana too much? If that's that, then it is not sufficient choice. Then it is a questionable issue. So it has to be with certitude. And what is with certitude? The whole testing is gone. Then the question will be, why not create a paradise to start with in the first place? Because creating hellfire is impossible to start with. Because it will be unjust, it will be punishment for no sin. So it will be, why not paradise from the beginning? This is the fundamental choice of qadar.
But I think it's
Testing
wrong.
universe
No,
followed by paradise
I
and
think-
hellfire instead of paradise from the beginning.
I think the
that
language,
would have been possible.
I think the language.
Now
is
there will
very,
be no choice. You are there. You enjoy yourself.
the language is very dangerous when you say it's impossible upon me. Or so it's impossible for him. I mean, whether it's
No, it's not
possible or
danger-
impossible, it's not even the issue. The issue is that he has the will. He's exercising
No.
his will,
What I'm
and
saying,
his will is to test.
what I'm saying, the question that you want to be asked about being tested or not is only if you are a rational being who can be asked and attest. That's already a test. It already happened. The damage is already done. That's impossible. But that you could have give that option, then it is not a testing universe. That's another qadar. He shows that this universe is not the other one. That you could create a paradise from the beginning, that's possible. Yeah. But then it will be the issue of choice will not be coming forward. You see? So, but within that context, this is impossible. It will create internal contradiction. And this is impossible. Divine power does not reach the impossible. It's the same way, like, for example, can God have a genuine son, a divine son? It's not possible. Because the necessary existing being is one. It cannot be split in two. And the genuine son must be having a divine essence, a bit of his father. It's not possible. His father is not bitable, not divisible in parts. It's not possible.
It's not like the creation.
It's not like the creation. It's impossible. That's not accessible to divine power. And will get you all the contradiction the atheists say. Can't God create a stone which is so heavy that he himself cannot lift and so on? Yeah, all these because they end into contradictions, and getting the divine power, which is supposed to be unlimited, at least in some Christian schools, up to the level that he can split in two and have a genuine son, making him possibly non-existing at the same time and existing, which is just will make reason and rationality completely disappear. Makes no sense.
Can
Nothing makes any sense anymore then.
Touching upon the ayah that the brother mentioned, where do you know that something is metaphorical or something is literal? Because, for
By
example,
analysing it.
we, from our limited rational ability, we assume on the surface that mountains can't think and other creation can't think, but we know that they worship Allah. Everything worships Allah.
What will mean submission and obedience? Obedience could be by free will, could be by
heavens and the earth. But he said, "Come willing."
Willingly or unwillingly.
Unwilling.
Yeah.
So we're coming willingly. Yeah. This is again
Fine.
metaphorical in
So,
the sense that
just
they
because-
have no other choice.
So
Here.
just
They are
because we
willing
don't-
because the law is impregnated them, will make them obedient. That's the meaning of willing. There. Because we know they don't have a free will from experience and immediate results of immediate experience and also other textual evidences. They don't have free will. We know that they don't have free will.
But why did he say, "Come willingly or unwillingly"?
This is
the language that he's employing?
this is a beautiful expression. You have to enjoy it. Imagine he telling the heaven and the earth, they start talking, and he talks to them. This gives you a very nice image, which you can appreciate things more literary wise. Not everything should be done dry in a philosophical dry way.
But-
there are things which are done in a metaphorical way much better than dry way. Sometimes you give examples, which illuminate things to the mind better than giving the straight fact, which can be put in like formula mathematical equations. These things. The Quran is not very full of them, very few of them. The old books have plenty of them, but the Quran has quite a little amount of them. But this has its own value in matter of bringing the message, exciting the aesthetic taste of the mind. The mind is not only a thinking mechanism; it's also a mechanism to appreciate beauty, appreciate harmonization, and such expressions are having their own beauty and their attractiveness and their effect on the soul to appreciate and understand things.
But shouldn't everything be taken literally unless
Yeah.
there is a qarina to say that
The
this
qarina is very clear here. The qarina, we see the qarina. By necessity of reason, these beings do not have sufficient rationality, and they are not. No mountain will be asked Yawm al-Qiyamah about anything. We know that.
But they're created from atoms, which are then have free wills.
We don't know. They have maybe a very limited freedom, maybe according to quantum mechanics, some kind of uncertainty. But is that enough to be accountable?
Well, if they're made up from the parts
So
that
we-
are... I mean, you said yourself in previous circles that even an electron
Yes,
has
but
free
this is
will.
not enough free will to make a decision that come obedient or not obedient. He's obeying
But
anyway.
that's just maybe our limitations that we can't fathom.
I'm
that.
not saying it's not our limitation, but saying if we work from the universe we know, from the language we know, we have to say it's metaphorical. If there's something, a deeper layer, maybe we'll detect it one day. I'm not excluding that, say. But to start with, this explanation is very reasonable. Yeah, this explanation is very reasonable. There are other places which are very clearly metaphorical, like for example in the hadith, when Allah created the womb. Face the creation.
Rahim.
The rahim. We know the rahim is part of the body, it's not a separate entity. Maybe it's like in a metaphorical or a domain of ideal entities. The womb, then we say the womb hung on his belt. We know Allah has no belt, you know that. We know that. There's no dress or belt or anything like that. Say, what's your problem? And he knows what's her problem. So this is the dialogue to give you an image as if you're looking at a movie, enjoying it. It's not only knowing the meaning, enjoying it is also important. So it impregnates you. Said, I'm afraid I will be cut. This is an Arabic expression. So in English it will not be nice, I will be disjoined or something maybe. Say, is it sufficient for you that whoever joins you, I join him? Or whoever cuts you, I cut him? Said, yes, say that you have to lose, it's for you. What's the meaning of that? That if you cut the relation of womb, Allah will cut your relation with you. That's the meaning of it. But is that as nice as this picture? No. So don't just be a literalist in the sense that you lose all taste of poetry and all taste of nice images and all the things which literary and dramatic art would represent better than just straightforward philosophical expressions. That's definitely not. Like there are many things, simple facts of life are represented by some beautiful movies, much better than you could imagine, put in a complete story and so on. And the sense of the story is a very simple fact. Like for example, many stories where friends struggle up to death to protect each other, just to enforce the principle of friendship and standing with your friend up to the last moment. And the whole story will give you that in a beautiful way of appreciation and tasting, with enjoyment mixed, not the pure philosophical expression or the one which you read in the book of Plato. That's very dry. The majority of the people would prefer to have to watch Avatar than reading the history of the Red Indians, what happened to them. Yeah, you see that. That's what I mean. Not everything is just dry purely. Yes, we should have it according to the straight, direct meaning of the wording, unless the rational necessity or other textual evidence forces us otherwise. So, need for messengers, need actually is only to make the testing, approval testing, and the punishment, at least Yawm al-Qiyamah, well-founded and not committing any injustice. And that's the reason that all evidence of the Quran Sunnah are clear that nobody will, the Hadith says clear, nobody will perish unless the one who is hopelessly perishing. وَلَا يَهْلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا هَالِكَ. The one who is, there is no way to save him. Because Allah will give you all the excuses possible you can, up to extreme limits. And if you don't pass all of that, that means you are the hopeless case who has received all the evidences, received all the injunctions, got all the opportunities, and decided to all neglect them and just follow exactly what the opposite of what he is supposed to be doing.
Is that in the hadith?
لا يهلك الله إلا هالك. Many hadith about their judgment and how the interrogation will happen and so on. Even some of them to extreme, which is very really.
But there is a hadith that Rasul+Islam said whoever was interrogated will be in trouble.
Yeah, that's about the accountability, yes, but this is various aspects have to be taken together. Because there's the ard that just show you things, and then with it interrogate, digging every point, meaning you are in trouble. Yeah, that's all synchronized well. But even in the interrogation, you will be given all excuses, even including the question: did the angel falsify anything? Did they lie? Do you have other counter evidences? All of that will be asked.
Were the messengers only men or women? This was raised once with somebody, and he said, you know the verse that says,
وَأَرْسَلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا. We did send, the only place in the Quran said we didn't send before you except men.
Yeah.
Then
he could have said, let's say, instead of Rijal, he could have said Nas or people or something.
Yeah, but the ones
who was very precise.
Yeah,
with his
surely. But the issue is Rajul sometimes mean the opposite of angel, because the ayah before said if would have been sent down to an angel, yeah, then we would follow an angel. We would follow. But a man like us, why should we follow a man like us? And the Quran respond to that, said, if we made him an angel, if we told that the messenger would have been an angel, we would have made him a man, which may be meaning human, because you know in English man means human being. Could be man or
Arabic
woman.
is, as he said, it's
Not necessary, but Rajul could be meaning a human being also. But the most meaning is the opposite of woman. Yes, I understand that. I'm not denying that. I say this is not really something which is with utmost certitude, because when in the context of they're asking about angels and say if it would have been an angel, we would make him in the shape of a man, and you will be confused again, because an angel will not be able to communicate with you as an angel. He has to have human shape. He has to have human shape to communicate with you. He has to be a human, take human nature, human interaction, so you can take him as a model and an example, and then the same situation will arise. He is a human. He is not an angel. And angel in their original nature and appearance are not susceptible to humans.
I'm sure it's Ibn Hazm. I was reading on the internet that apparently a lot of controversies around him is that he
said the prophets that the mother of Musa and the prophet it's possible that prophets could be female. Yeah, he has a point, because that ayah about the men is only for messengers. ما أرسلنا من قبلك. While prophets which are not messengers are not necessarily.
There's one, I've forgotten what surah it is. It talks about all the messengers. It puts Maryam there as well. Mm-hmm. And after that it says, and these were. It talks about, Isa. It talks about Musa.
It's sort of yeah.
And then it talks about Maryam. And then it says, and these were the messengers that we sent. No,
this is also again not with certitude, because there's أولئك الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء. Those have Allah bestowed grace on them from prophets, holy men, and shuhada, which again makes the issue open again. So it's not if it's only prophets, then we have to count Maryam definitely under them. Without any issue, there wouldn't be an issue.
I'll check it again. Yeah.
No, but is
So-
he having the same stance that it's possible, or he's saying yes, they are also included as prophets?
Who?
Ibn Hazm.
No, but Hazm said Maryam and because the angels talked to gave them revelation, they are prophets. They are prophets.
And what about the disciples of Isa?
But not messenger because of the ayah of the Rijal. You take Rijal as masculine, fine, no problem. For me, it's not an issue. Because I don't see there's any problem that why not send women? Because obviously carrying the message and the struggle with the environment and so on is a hard job which maybe only men would be able to perform if it barely survive. While a woman would be busy with her household, with children, because that's the main responsibility, possibly obliged to be serving her husband or living a certain limitation by the husband. That it's
in the Bible it says Deborah was.
Maybe that's what Ibn Hazm also gave a direction that there are prophetesses in the history of Bani Israel. So it seems to be what Ibn Hazm's point of view is not bad. It's quite solid.
What about
That
the
prophethood is not exclusively for men. Maybe messengerhood, because the hardship of messengerhood, the confrontation, it can be usually only carried on and performed reasonably by men. Besides, also women will have the issue of pregnancy and all these things, which are really a handicap in someone who is full-time devoted for da'wah. Possibly. Or we know some da'i woman. That's not that woman cannot be a da'i, but to the level of a messenger who will confront tyrants, confront whole societies, it is a job which maybe only men will be and should not be really burdened on women.
Like the author of that book, what's it called? The Return of Pharaoh. Zainab al-Ghazali.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, are you talking about examples like that?
Yeah, there are many female who are extra da'i. I'm not saying so. I say messenger who have to establish a status on. And also in the time of in time past, you should not forget that societies were paternal, where the men were dominant. So it will be an extra problem if to send a female messenger. Will create further problems for the society, for the messenger, for everyone else. But in principle, I don't see.
Were the disciples messengers of Isa?
They call them apostle in there because Isa is for them divine.
Because it says it in the Quran as well.
No, just the Hawariyin. They're usually at Hawari.
Yeah,
Hawari means supporter.
No, I've forgotten the surah again. But I was reading somewhere once, and the language that it used was, and we inspired them as well.
Yeah, could be. And they are prophets that have certain limited prophethood. I think what causes some people problems with that is that they have a problem with thinking that prophets must have all the characteristic and fallibility which Muhammad ﷺ had. We discussed that, I think, in the book of Tawheed, which I refer the people to read. That the only necessity of reason dictate that for messengers, or just also for prophets, for messenger, because the messenger is the one who has to bring the message to the people, is that he's infallible for about that what he reports from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise it will be not an authority towards the people. We like any scholar. So if he says Allah ordered it, or in a clear text which has no other misinterpretation, that it's referring that it's coming from Allah, or this is from Allah, or this will happen Yawm al-Qiyamah, as being informed by the Wahi, in that it cannot be a mistake or a lie, because otherwise prophethood will lose its meaning.
But he could be a sinner.
Could be a sinner, in principle, yes. It's all the usual constructed.
So then the old argument, for example, that they're ma'soom,
no,
it has to be backed with evidence.
It has been.
Every
There's no
single
evidence,
one will,
because you have to build it rationally. The first one is because of rational system. Because if he commits a mistake or makes or lies, then that cannot be corrected ever. Because say maybe if he makes a mistake, he reported from Allah in such a way that is clearly from Allah. Say, yesterday I made a mistake. It was not actually Allah. I just somebody told him that. Then this statement may be also not from Allah. And the second one ad infinitum, it doesn't work. So it has to be from the beginning without any doubt that if he's a prophet.
But also about the apostles, Allah threatening them with with the verse where it says, I forgot the verse, but it says,
right,
لا
about that.
يعذب أحد من العالمين.
Yeah,
Which
imagine.
Allah is threatening them that.
And
He
some
will
scholars
punish them
said,
in
they
a
said,
way.
no, we are not going to accept this Ma'idah, we don't want it, leave it. We just have and that's it. Some scholars try to harmonize that with the reports in the New Testament that there was no tablet coming from heaven. And when they threatened, if you become kafir after that, or deny my messenger, then I will punish you punishment which nobody in the universe will punish. Say, no, we don't want it. Let's have just a normal meal. We don't want to have a tablet from heaven. So some scholars say that.
Was it about a tablet or?
That's about the tablets. I will bring it down. Whoever commit kufr after that, I will
You mean
punish.
table?
Yeah,
The table will come
the
down.
table spread. Yeah, the table
Yeah.
with food. Yes, yeah.
You were saying tablet.
A table. So,
Yeah, same, yeah.
so it didn't come down. Many scholars say it did not come down. Because when they said, no, we don't want it. خلاص, we prefer to be not put in such a severe test.
I always had a problem with the argument that has had constructed by saying is that by definition all of them have to be Ma'asum, because I'm sure that there was a prophet that he was fleeing for Bani Israel and then he asked one of the trees to open up.
This is Yunus.
And the messenger went inside and then the Bani Israel had cut the tree in two with a sword and he died in it because Allah said that you asked the tree to help you and not me. So
maybe this is some kind of railway story. I'm not aware about that. But we
he actually told me.
But we know that Yunus went without permission and left his place, and a messenger should not leave his place. So no, the Hizb argument is wrong. It's utterly wrong, because the only thing which you can rationally defensible is that when a prophet, assume he's a prophet, has been proven with whatever evidences, is reporting from Allah in a language which has no multiple meaning. Like for example, they say Allah ordered this or prohibited this. This has no other meaning except that. But say this is bad, that could be from Allah from His own text. You see what I mean? So if you say about something this is bad, this is not enough authority. You can't say this from Allah unless you have an extra evidence. But if you say Allah said this is not acceptable or this is haram, then because that cannot be corrected anymore if it's a mistake or a lie. There's no way to correct it, because the claim it is yesterday I forgot or I made a mistake. That's what you're saying now is also a mistake. I lied yesterday, you are lying now, and it's good ad infinitum. Say no, I'm correct that, and this one is not correct. I have to correct, and this ad infinitum. It's good in infinitum. Yes, it's not possible. It has to be from the first instant, but has the unique statement in words, in linguistic words, which leave no doubt that it is a revelation. That has to be no mistake and no lie. Anything else goes. Yes, someone could say if a prophet or a messenger is not complying with his command, what's the problem with that? It will be even a harsher test for his follower, because if he's not a good model, it's very difficult to follow and very difficult to obey. But this is not, Allah is not obliged to give you, to relieve you of such a harsh. It's a harsh test. He can be merciful enough to relieve you of such a harsh test, but he can't test you this way. Instead, the messenger will tell you simply, listen, I have received revelation that anyone commit adultery will be flogged 100 lashes. Yeah? Including myself if I do it. What's the problem with that? It's no problem. No rational problem. He will be a bad example, yes, if he commits fornication and will be flogged on hand, but he should be flogged like anybody else. As simple as that. It will be difficult to follow such an example. I agree. But who said Allah is obliged to make it easy for you? He can make it easy out of mercy. He can make it difficult. Not to deliver if possible, that will be then bordering on injustice. It's very well possible, rationally acceptable and defensible that I give you a command, I don't comply with it. This will not be the nicest way of behavior and not the nicest example, but it's and we know that, for example, Jesus himself in the New Testament, he says some places, you will find many people say good things and do bad deeds. Take their good words, but don't follow their bad deeds. He said that in various places. So it doesn't mean that someone is doing bad deeds and still giving good instruction should not deter you from recognizing that his advice is good. Take the good advice and just look away from his bad deeds. He failed to comply. He's not a good example, but don't follow his deed. Follow his words, the correct words.
Do you know what's the difference?
And also hadith. You will hear Quraysh saying things and doing things as Take from their saying, but don't do their doings. Because they say usually they have usually eloquent advice and nice words, but their deeds not in compliance with that. Don't follow their bad deeds. There's hadith like that. This is the known fact. Are they a good model? No. But does not mean that what they are saying is the untruth. And that's all what counts in matter of revelation, that you get the truth from Allah. So the claim that a prophet has to be not sinning or unfallible in his deeds has no evidence of rationality.
So what about in terms of the Prophet ﷺ used to have revelation in his sleep as well? So there are some people who say that Allah gave me some ilham, whether I was sleeping, whether I was awake, some
well, I'm
form
not
of
denying
inspiration.
that, but this is not making anybody a prophet, because the prophethood is that what received, what the messenger or the prophet receives on revelation is with certitude and infallibility. That is not with certitude and with because dreams could be intermixed with your subconscious desire, with your brain settling the daily accounts, with all these things. And unless you have a sharp, distincting mark telling you what is true and what's not true, it is not necessarily revelation. It could be revelation. Nobody says it. Dreams could be revelation, yes. But there's no certitude, except for prophets again. So dreams are the only remaining portion of revelation are the dreams. You know the hadith, famous hadith.
146.
Prophet is a dream is one of 46 parts of revelation. One of 46 does not mean it is 100% revelation, so you can't be sure about it. And still dreams will continue until Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's the
What
only.
if someone turns around and says that I have certitude?
He's lying. How can he have certitude?
Because he's had these dreams. I mean, I'm going down the Broadview line because this is
Yeah.
what they construct these stories, you see. So they say, I've had, and Allah can never tell me something bad. The Prophet's
He's
been
mistaken.
in my the Prophet's been in my dream, and that is the Prophet because the Prophet will.
No, that's where ignorance and they can mislead you, because the hadith about that who saw me in vision, in dream, has seen me really, because the devil does not take my shape, is very clear. It cannot take the shape of the Prophet, which the Sahaba knows. This is only for the Sahaba. Many scholars recognize that long ago. You don't know what's the shape of the
Ibn
Prophet.
Taymiyyah and Ibn Sirin both
And
say
others say, if you have not seen the Prophet in your life, you don't know how he looked like. So if someone comes in a dream to you, say, I am Muhammad and so on, maybe a devil. Unless you know how the Prophet had. And unfortunately, the Arab did not have a nice sculpturing or drawing art, so we don't have a picture of the Prophet. So we don't know how he was looking like. So except the Sahaba who knew him in his life, nobody can be certain that the one came in his dream is the Prophet. It could be. Hopefully it is. It's a good sign, but nobody.
But
I can tell you a bunch of other dreams. Like, for example, I recently saw...
No, but the hadith is general, right? It's saying is that...
No. The Satan لا يتشكل بصورتي. The devil will not take my shape. So how do we know his shape?
But if
you know his
but
shape.
if in the dream it says that I am...
No. He says the shaitan will not take my shape, meaning the shaitan could take another shape and claim he's Muhammad. Nothing prevents him from that. And you don't know the shape of Muhammad, he will come. Come with another picture. You take just a nice Arab appearance, because he knows how the Arab appear. He will not come as a Chinese. He's too intelligent. He's too intelligent, or like someone from Nigeria, a Zinji. He will come as an Arab, average-looking, Semitic-looking man.
So
Is he Muhammad? No, it's
so
not.
when do you know it's the Prophet?
You don't know. You don't know. Only the Sahaba know. So don't misapply the hadith. That's where the brain will be out, where the shortness of knowledge will get you into your demise. I give you another example. There was the Americans are now watching with cameras and so on, a man who claimed that he did not eat and drink for 70 years.
Yes, that's what the Indian guy.
This Hindu monk or Hindu escape. And he claims the reason for that is that a goddess, imagine that, touched him when he was 12 or 13 years old. So, and there was a goddess really touching him. People could imagine everything. Maybe he was touched with nothing. It's just an imagination in the mind. And by training and yoga, he could reduce his physiological activity down to the level. I don't believe the 70 years by itself, frankly speaking. I think he may be lying. But even if they watch him for months, I wouldn't be surprised. Because we know bears hibernate for 6 months without any food and so on. Just the life functions would slow down. And we know by yoga training, you can't even, some yogists came to the level that they can stop and control their heartbeat. They can stop it for 5 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
One guy was
By enormous training, by very harsh training. So this guy could really survive the American observation and the cameras for months without food and drink, without any problem. Just
God has touched him.
And he believes that. I think he's not lying. I think he's really firmly believing that the God is touching him. And he's sitting in one place for 70 years, meditating. Without food and drink. I think he's like half dead. He reduces his life functions.
Okay,
that's the only way.
Yeah, like,
but if you look at his
like
face, he
looks too healthy.
but he's 70. He's very slim. He looks 70 years old. So he cannot control the physiological functions to the level that he doesn't age. You could say, why the goddess do not give you eternal youth? Also, I said the goddess shows that. He will come also with all kind of arguments. But I mean, if you're going to believe that, he believes that. All these are people believe all kinds of sort of things, which are either having a satanic explanation, or a divine explanation, or an angelic explanation, or just a physiological and then a psychological training explanation.
What about the statue who started
The
drinking
same with
milk?
drinking milk as well. All of these either myths or fabrication or
It could be
satanic.
jinn as well.
Could be all kinds of phenomena.
So back to the dreams. The
It
story
does not
that-
prove anything.
Mhm.
Proofs must be based ultimately going to rational information. And things
why
which
did this-
can be shown or impossible to be except from Allah. That's where prophethood is brought. And that's where the prophets excel. That what they do, nobody can do. And definitely only the divine power can do it.
So there's people when they say that Imam al-Bukhari used to see the Prophet telling him for every hadith that he used to write. Well,
Don't get carried away with that. And we have many people saying that the Quran reader, he read the reading to read the Quran to the Rasul in dreams, and he said, all your reading is perfect except there's 2 spots and things like that. If you like it, to take that on board, I don't mind, but this is all not evidence. This could be your subconscious working, could be all kinds of phenomena.
Yeah,
no, it's all
Yeah,
far
right.
from-
was from the time of Adam salam to the Prophet salam, did every generation have a messenger or a prophet coming to them?
We don't know. The Quran says every ummah has received a nadir, a warner. Now, the word ummah could apply, for example, to one generation, could apply, for example, after Muhammad said, this is one ummah until Yawm al-Qiyamah, and they have a warner, this is Muhammad. So it does not mean that it would have be every generation.
Okay, but for example, in our time, we don't have Muhammad sallam with us right now, and why can't people use that as an excuse that?
No, they can't, because the message there is protected. They have to put the effort to study it, and those who are interested do put the effort and could reach a conclusion. So that's not an excuse.
Okay, so I've some people have asked me that those people that live in just isolated islands and this
Don't
world
worry about them. I know this question. This comes again and again. I don't know why the people are bugged with this question.
Yeah.
It seems to be like an obsession. That's what happens with the babies when they die yearly. What happens with these living in the Amazon? What happens? And you say, people, why you are in big trouble about that? Do you think you will be managing them better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Just let him. He will manage them. Just get busy managing your own affairs. If you get your affairs sorted out, you will be fine. But I think this is all just either this question becomes being concerned what will happen with these. It's good to be concerned, but it shows it is. Let's say sometimes the devil is trying to get your mind and work things which are not very productive. If you know the principle is very simple. You will not perish until you have received the message, you are convinced it's correct, based on its evidences, and you act upon it in a not positive way, with your free will. There's no other responsibility otherwise. Whenever anyone telling you anything else or bring you another hadith, he has neglected the other hadith. Like for example, the hadith, whoever hears about me from the people of the books, the Jews and Christians will be in there and does not become a believer in the hellfire. So you're just hearing what I mean. You just say, there's a Muhammad. This is not hearing. That's not what the hadith says. Because the other ayah says clearly, whoever opposed the messenger, after he received the guidance in an evident way, بعد ما تبين له, the whole became apparent to him, clear. That one we will disjoin him and cast him in the hellfire. So this ayah explained this one. So hear of me, a hearing which is sufficient to be an authority. That's the hearing meant there. So you have to understand this hadith in light of this ayah, in this light of this hadith, and put them all together.
There's
That's where the problem. So if you have this fundamental principle, nobody will perish unless he's worthy without any hope. Even to an extreme, that one hadith is almost like you're having one of very nasty parastria coming there. and then he's confronted with all his sins. And Allah said, okay, that's the record. Any comment? Are you accusing the angels of fabricating? He said, I'm not accusing anybody anything, but the problem is that they are your angels from the side of the court. I need witnesses from my side. He said, I have witnesses, so your witness is acceptable, but a judge is not supposed to witness in the same court. And you are the judge, and the judge cannot witness at the same time, so they accept it. Say, which kind of witness? The only witness I accept is a witness from my side, from the defense side. I want my own witness. So, okay, where is that? There's nobody there. I say, my body parts. So he said, okay, we'll let your body part speak freely. So he's ordered to remain silent, and his body part talk. And the body part witness against him. And after he's ordered, his mouth permitted to talk, he told his body part, said, "Suhqan lakum, to the hell with you, I was defending you from hellfire." I say, what can we do? We cannot lie in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to tell the truth. So even his own body, so you could imagine really in a court and a very nasty barrister doing this job. And it doesn't Yawm al-Qiyamah up to that level. And doesn't help him, because there are witnesses against him from his own body, from his own. And he cannot say they are lying, because you know there are facts now.
But then
Say, but I am defending you. Say, but even if you are defending us, we know we'll be banned with you. What we can do? We cannot. Allah has ordered us to.
This is a
It's
hadith.
hadith, yeah.
But then he can also say that these body parts were created by Allah, so I need something that was not created.
It's not possible. That it's not possible, because this is all what is there. There's no way that's going to that. He knows that it will be rationally impossible.
Back to the question about the prophets. The prophet, when he prevented people from injecting...
But this one in being perishing, because it doesn't have him, all these tricks will not say. But the other one, like for example, he shows his sins, the two cases, which is the one of the bitaqa, showed this, and then he saw books going up to the horizon. Now, not necessarily physical to the horizon, it's again metaphorical. It's like a book which extends and extends and extends, all full of misdeeds and sins and so on. Mostly minor sins, nothing major really, but plenty. But I think this is bigger, nasty to this and smaller things, but plenty. And then he said, is anything there wrong? Is there any misrecording there? He said, no, it's all correct. I cannot deny anything. This is a fact. I said, you will not be treated unjustly today. We have a good deal for you, which you did not see here in this list. We'll put under the bitaqa, a small card is taken. And they say, this bitaqa is there. We'll put it in the other balance of the scale. I said, what's this bitaqa should do with these massive books? There's no hope. I'm finished. Said, don't go in a hurry. Let us see how the bitaqa will. The bitaqa contain La ilaha illallah. And the bitaqa will be able to outbalance these, because it's more weighty. That's one. But the other one is that one is confronted also, and then he sees many sins. Allah tells the angels, we'll make a teasing for this chap, which is a good one. We want to give him some kind of mercy. Show him the minor ones and keep some major ones at the side. So he's shown the book. Is there any denial? Say no denial. It's clear. Nothing to
Yeah, but I mean, on the day of judgment, how can anyone have the audacity? Because there's so many evidences that people can't ever do anything. They just
the hadith said there will be audacious people. There will be all kinds of audacious people. That's one doesn't have.
Are they
audacity.
scared of? I mean, the trembling and
any denying anything of like that? No, Allah will give you really the capability of being arguing for your case. Every soul will argue. So at the moment to argue, there will be a phase where everyone now arguing to escape. And gets all the arguments possible. You will get the audacity when needed. We will give you the power to argue your case in fullest. So after I said, any objection, any addition, say, I have no objection. All of that's true, but there are things which I know that they should be there, but they are not there. What happened to them? There are sins I know, but they are not on the list. What happened to them? He's afraid that he will be surprised. Say, these you have done in secret, I covered for you in dunya, and I'm covering now in the akhirah. Or another type, the one who committed sin but secretly and so on. Allah will bring like a veil, nobody is witnessing, say, you remember that day, this, yes, I remember. And when he thinks he's finished, Allah's done, no hope. Allah said, I covered in dunya, I did not scandalize you in dunya, I'm not going to scandalize you today. We're going to clean the slate, nobody will know that for all eternity. Lift the veil, let him go. So, This is a court where you not only get justice, you get the maximum grace you can imagine, an imaginable one. And so knowing that, meaning the question about what happened to those in Amazon and the babies and the mentally retarded, even what hadith said, even the blind man who said, I was blind, I did not have enough senses to judge the messenger. Even a blind man. Because a blind man actually has quite a good access to the reality, has ears, has access to
and
language.
more heightened as well.
Yeah,
The heightened.
that's so it's, okay. We'll give you another list today.
What about the Sahabas who have been told that it's been narrated that they have amazing powers? For example, Umar bin Khattab, with his hand, he was able to shake the mountain.
No, this is all not true. Many of these stories.
In a lot of Awlaki stuff, it's mentioned.
Some Sahabas have this is we are going now to another issue. Maybe we'll do it another day in more detail about the miracles and the so-called karama.
Are they
the scholars have the following division. They call this. It's all called ayat, general signs, because they indicate they are signs for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if they are for a prophet, the technical term used by the scholars of Tawheed and Ilm al-Kalam, they call it mu'jiza, meaning something from ajaz. Ajiz, you say someone is ajiz, we say unable. So this is disabling. A mu'jiz, something will disable you from counter-arguing. That's the meaning. So mu'jiza, which is so that you admit you can't have any counter-argument to it. To its verification power. Let me give an example for mu'jiza. And if it is happening to a non-prophet, because mu'jiza has to be in connection with the prophethood claim. If it's not with the prophet claim, it's not a mu'jiza. It could be even a satanic phenomena. Very important. Obviously, the satanic phenomena will never come to the level of mu'jizat. That's the general standard. But even if they come to the level of mu'jizat, the moment the guy claims to be a prophet, he will be deprived from that, because Allah will not permit that what he reserved to prove the prophethood of his prophets will be undermined by. So maybe a magician could do a mu'jiza while he's a magician. Say, I'm doing it by magic. When we say I'm a prophet now, he ceases to have this power automatically by Allahi interference. But let us say an example of a mu'jiza, one classical one, the revival of Al-Azar by Isa. So Isa comes late. The sister of Al-Azar, daughter by her name, is it Rachel? Anyway, or Elizabeth, she writes to him, my brother is sick, come quickly healing him, master, Rabbi, my teacher. But he's delayed along the way because he needed to make, I think, a roundabout way because there's a threat of a king or whatever, I don't remember the story details. Anyway, he comes late by 10 days. Al-Azar is dead, and they buried him. At the time they buried him, they dug holes in the mountains, and they have a very big rock, like a rolling rock, and they closed that, and they put you in a shelf. So he was dead for 10 days. Now you know Palestine, the heat, and he was going toward the Beit al-Maqdis or Jerusalem for the Passover festivities. Yeah, and that's usually in Nisan, which is almost April or March. It goes back and forth because of the lunar cycles and so on, but it's around that. So it's in the springtime. Springtime in Palestine is quite nicely hot. Not very hot, but it's quite enough. So enough for the bacteria to have a feast. So the man being feasted now by the bacteria, 10 days. And you can imagine what's happening. So he comes, she not rebuked, she chides him. If you have been late, if you have came early, you would have healed him. Now he's dead and she's weeping. And he, ﷺ himself, Isa, start weeping. And weeping very heavily, so that his chest sounds like a horse. Really deep weeping, like the sound of the horse when the horse is after really deep weeping. And I said, why did you bury him? He said, we buried him there. Well, what do you want to do? He says, only behind the closed door, and there's no way anyone can go there because it's 10 days. It must be stinking like hell. So they roll the rock, and the stench comes out. You don't need to tell how it will be. And they started at the gate and say, Al-Azar, come out. And Al-Azar come alive, the one who was already disintegrating and stinking, revert into non-stinking and living state. Get up. And then he told them, take his death shroud, wash him, and give him new clothes and a living being. So, reinstating life in a dead body which was quite in a good stage of this thing. You know, if you leave meat outside in 10 days, it will stink like hell. So it's integrating considerably. There's no way to do it by any physical means. There's no physical means can do it. Entropy-wise alone, because the level of this organization achieved by this integration is such a way that I think all the power of the universe put together will not be able to reverse that entropic, that the dissipation of entropy which has happened there. It's thermodynamically impossible, physically impossible. It's done by divine power. For Isa, it's a miracle. It's mu'jiza. It makes you feel disabled of confronting the argument, except it must be a power which is beyond the capabilities of the universe. It does not fit to the system of the universe with the tools at that time available to the people at that time. And not even at our time. Because even if someone can do that today, with tools which were not there, so if you transport them back, then it's not the same time, not the same circumstances. So it's impossible for all eternities, taking the same circumstances. Even if you have to recreate the same situation now in an African village, it will not be possible. You may be able to do it maybe in a sophisticated hospital, but we don't do it yet. Maybe down the road, and the deal may be able to do it, but not now. So it's with ways and procedures which we know how to do it, and will not be done in a second just by calling someone out. Must be very complicated and sophisticated, if possible. I don't think it will be ever possible in this universe whatsoever.
So how about Karama?
Now, Karama is similar, also something like that, but for someone who's a follower of the Prophet, on virtue of him being a follower of the Prophet, a committed follower of the Prophet. But all of them in the Quranic terms will be ayah, will be sign, because it's a sign for Allah's existence and His interference or His breaking or overriding. Some people call it breaking the natural law, some people overriding the natural law, whatever you want to call it. It is a technical term, is of no great relevance. It's you will have something which is physically not possible. But the only one which is really count of importance, leave the karama aside, because the karama will be a matter of judgment. Say this is a holy man, he's a pious man, it must be a karama. We don't know.
But the irony here is,
in the case of the Prophet who has declared his prophethood, it is done by necessity and evidence for him, because first of all that it happened, meaning there's a power that is really breaking the physical law or overriding the physical law temporarily, or enacting another law which is different than the physical law, whatever it is, the explanation you would like, all of that is not of great relevance to the fact. The fact is that with no way anybody else using the system of the universe will be able to do the same, meaning there's a force behind the universe doing it. Now, if someone claims he's being sent by this force, and this force obviously must be a being which has knowledge and has power, both, because otherwise he would not do it now. It must be a being which you can call a personal being, who have will, have power, have choice. Otherwise it would happen haphazard. If it's happened by a mechanism, it would happen according to the mechanism, not according to this man coming at the grain. So at this moment specifically, yeah. So it must be someone who knows what's going on, and knows his messenger needs a miracle at this moment, and perform the miracle. So a being which knows, has free will, and has power to do it. That he does that on someone claiming to be sent by him must be by necessity approving his claim of being sent. Because otherwise it's impossible to prove. The proof is there by the act itself. So to make the proof complete, Allah is then obliged, because He sent the messenger to establish authority and evidence against everyone Yawm al-Qiyamah. He's obliged that if someone claims to be a messenger, even if he performed before that what you call miracle, whatever kind of tricks, which will be not really a miracle, but fooling the people's eye, or whatever kind of satanic support, which will not be reached that level, because the Satan will not have these powers. Also, in the case, the moment he claims to be a messenger, he will fail to perform it. Or if he does something like without claiming to be a messenger, that claims to be that he's a skilled magician, then another magician will come and undermine his magic. That happens often, that magicians challenge each other and defeat each other. So it is defeatable. But the miracle is having these two aspects. It is clearly indicating that the divine has interfered in favor of the one who claiming to be a prophet, and no one claiming a prophet will bring anything similar. He will fail. And that's the reason the challenge between Musa and was
Pharaoh.
clear, and the magician of Pharaoh is that it's clearly that the magician immediately recognized this is not a type, because what they did is either satanically initiated or tricks, mechanical tricks. But they immediately they saw, because they are specialists in that area, and they know the technology of their age, by either the satanic, related to spirits and so on, or the physical. They know immediately this is a real snake, not appearing like a snake. Because the Quran says about their فَخُيِّلَ إِلَيْهِ, it appeared to him as if they are moving. They are not moving. It's just dead sticks and ropes and so on. But they appeared to him. Even him himself would appear to him. But when they saw that, they knew this is not appearance. This is the real snake, and they even consumed their sticks and so on. Destroyed them, swallowed them, and annihilated them. So there was no doubt about that. That's immediately they went into sujood. Pharaoh, speculating on the people's dumbness and stupidity, said, "Oh, he's the master magician. No wonder that he's defeating you." Relying on the stupidity of the people, or hoping to rely, because some people became believers and joined Musa anyway, because of the power of this. So that's one aspect of miracle, that it defeats any challenge, and no one claiming prophethood will be able to perform. So all these magicians and all these liars in history, they never brought anything which manifestly and clearly beyond the capability of any universal power, like reviving a dead. Even in the case of Karama, like for example, there's narration that some Sahabi, their animals died, and they supplicated to Allah, and the animal was revived, etc. We have these things happening. We have also a very good narration about Abu Musa al-Khawlani, who has been thrown in fire by Rasul+Islam in Yemen. And this isnad is good. And then nothing happened to him except the ropes and so on. And then Umar kissed him and he said, "Alhamdulillah that I lived until I see someone who has been granted such a miracle like the one granted to Ibrahim." And this is also beyond any power in the universe at that technology of that time. Even now technology, there's no way to put someone in the fire, and even if you blow with strong air around him to shield him, there's not enough technology there to shield him. It's conceivable that you can blow such a strong air around him that he like in a bubble which protect him, but most likely it will be so strong that he will be taken into parts anyway. So we'll get him like pieces of meat after that, which is not a very good way of saving someone from fire by disintegrating him in pieces. But it's conceivable now. There are very big turbine type of air blower and so on, which could shield you with such an airflow that the fire does not come in. But I think you inside will be also cut into pieces, like as if you were on a butcher table or something like that. So that's what you can achieve with physics and technology. It was done for Ibrahim, coming out perfect in complete safety. The same with Abu Musa al-Khawlani, who was not a prophet and didn't ask for it. It happened that. But in the case of prophet, it may happen either by him asking for it, or challenging for it, or sometimes without challenge. Just the occasion comes and the people need it. For example, like Isa turning water into wine in a wedding when they run out, or the Prophet giving the people in many occasions to drink from a small amount of water, maybe less than a mug. A whole army of several hundred men drank, performed their ablution, and even a bit of it, a man will fill the big pot and went because he has a wet dream and had a full body wash. All of them drank from the small amount of water, which is a small, like, these used by the small
jars.
No, the small things which they like
a sack.
A small sack with water that's small.
Leather.
A small leather one, not the big one. Small leather one, the personal one. They have the personal one and the big one, which hang with the camel, and the personal one which you can hang on your shoulder. From that small one of the Prophet, he gave the whole army to drink and to make ablution and so on. It's not only one occasion, many other occasions. Increasing water, because they need that. And many occasions increased food and so on.
Yeah, question. The hadith, I don't know if it's authentic, and if it is, when Rasul+Islam forbid people of Medina to inject one type of dates into the another tree so they can have a mixture of both. But then Rasul, that year, it wasn't a great year because they had less dates, and The Rasul prevented them, but then he said
No.
he's a human, he makes mistakes.
No, he did not prevent them. This is the very important comment, is that was the limitation of prophetic infallibility and so on. What he said, he commented, say, I don't think this is important to do. I don't think it is important. It's various variations of the hadith. If you take all of them, we have them in the book of Tawheed, by the way, with all the narrations. And one said, I guess it's not efficient, it has no significance. And they say, I don't think it would have any effect if they leave it, because many other natural plants and so on, they the wind and the bees will fertilize them and so on. And that year they have a considerably less harvest, because for the palm trees are real domesticated plants, and they have grown. The amount they give in domesticated state are much huger than in wilderness. They need only few fruits, and the species will persist. But human beings develop them so that they produce fruit for the human consumption, and for that you have to do the fertilization by hand, taken from the bull palm tree and giving the female palm tree. And without that, you will not get enough fertilization, enough fruits. So that year they learned us and said, you know better your dunya. If you know that fertilization is effective, then you know it. It's a fact of dunya. This is not a matter of wahi. But if I tell you this is from Allah or a commandments, then this is from Allah. This is the fact which is reliable. My guess is of no relevance. So it shows where is the limitation of that. Because he never said it's from Allah, or it is a fact, or a civilization. He said, I don't think it's effective. It may work, it may not work. It's just a guesswork. Guesswork from the
popping
Prophet.
of the seeds, example.
And in another hadith, that's a weak narration. It says, I'm not a farmer. I have no farming experience. Go ahead and fertilize or inseminate, if that's what works for you. They just do it. So the comments of this type about how the universe is are usually like comments of anybody else. And this is also the point where, mostly for Muslims, or for non-Muslims listening to us will not be really affected by that, but many Muslims talk about so-called Tib Nabawi, prophetic medicine. Most of that you have to be very cautious, because really not Tib Nabawi, it is Arab medicine and Arab herbal knowledge accumulated over centuries, and because the Muslims tend to have quite a number of sicknesses, including headaches and so on, Aisha used to ask the Bedouins what kind of recipes they have and apply to him. And they think it's Tib Nabawi. It's not Tib Nabawi, it's not Tib Arabi applied to him like any human beings taking the medicine of his time. Like for medicine of his time, one of the major medicine was called hijama. That's cupping and letting blood, which is very efficient in matter of relieving high blood pressure or relieving headache. That's well known. That's one he did because he suffered from headache, so hijama would relieve. And we know why it's relief. It reduces the pressure immediately, and the pressure type headache will be eased by this. Also, they used cauterization, which is by fire. And said cauterization may be efficient. Said here, but I don't like cauterization. I don't like being cauterized by fire. It's very painful. I didn't like that. And then honey, which is known universally to be very healing for many diseases. So if there's any healing which is proven very well, is either drinking a drink of honey, or having cauterization, or having cupping, hijama. And I don't like, there's other things, but in this hadith, I don't like branding, cauterization. But we know branding is very efficient in many diseases, especially skin diseases, like dimples and so on, or these virus diseases which you have a master dimple or a master growth, and then babies all over the body. So if you find the master and burn it, it will go. I did it myself to various people. One of my cousins had even in his mouth he had.
Oh, wow.
And I guess the one in his foot was the biggest, the father. I burned it, it was gone. All of them went in a few days. So cauterization is it's very painful, but it's efficient. You cannot say it's not a healing. This is by experience of the people. What's really prophetic is if you say that the black seed is containing a cure for all diseases except death. That's a statement which is of universality, which indicates coming from Wahi. And you know, modern research has shown it has things which boost the immune system enormously. So it will cure most of diseases in that sense. And other things like that, which their formulation indicates is coming from Wahi. But other things, just experience of the Arabs. So if you hear about prophetic medicine, just put two big question marks. But most people are not critical, and anything coming from the Prophet is having like a feeling of barakah and so on, and they just hang on it. But it's not a rational and scholarly way of following things, unfortunately. Yeah, well, we would love to have that, but not things you love are always the correct things. So the reality is no prophetic medicine except very few things. Hijama is efficient, yes, we know, and it's done even. And it's known that if you give blood donation regularly, you will have a certain improvement in the liver function and other function, because you encourage them to produce blood and replenish it. It's healthy for you to give donation regularly and so on. In that case, not a donation, but letting blood to ease the pressure, especially in emergency when the high pressure type headache is heavy. Letting the blood from the neck or from the shoulder will ease the pressure and will have an effect. Well, this is a medical fact known before Islam and after, so it's not a prophetic medicine, it's an Arab medicine, maybe even an Indian or Chinese medicine. And that's it. And I guess if they knew acupuncture and Arabic at the time, he would have tried it also, no problem, because he tried almost every medical way, anything without any problem, because this is the availability of science and knowledge of the people, which will benefit from it if it is effective. Some of it is quite effective.
Massage,
Massage. So
Call it a day.
that's what the people call prophetic medicine. You have to get what is the limitation of the prophet. Maybe we should next time discuss the various types of miracles, and because we have no really the problem with miracles is that they happen historically, and we have no verification of them, most of them nowadays, except for Muhammad ﷺ. I know many of the listeners who are not Muslims who are not aware about that, but we will bring sufficient information which shows that there are sufficient many miracles which are reported by Tawatur, which happened. They can deny that if they wish, maybe, which will not be rational, because the reports are very mutually corroborating and very strong. But we have reports about future events, and the records are on record and in writing, spread in hundreds and thousands and hundreds of books, long before the events have materialized. And the events some of them have materialized, some still to materialize, some is showing indication about signs that they are about to materialize. We'll mention some of these, and these are the verses of absolute type. There is no way. We have also in the Old Testament quite a number of prophecies like that, which materialize later, and it can be proven to be the prophecy is really older than the fact. Like for example, it is in the Old Testament in the Greek version, the Septuagint. We know the Septuagint is 250 years before Christ. So anything happening after that, and Septuagint is well conserved and well known since then, that will prove that there is some divine origin for prophecies in the Old Testament, and a few like that also. So it's not that the Old Testament and New Testament are completely void of these things, but they are very difficult to come by, and the metaphoric language is more common in the Old and New Testament than in the Quran and Sunnah, which makes it difficult to ascertain certain things and makes multiple interpretation quite a headache. But in that case, the things which we bring, so that will do that, and then we may be going to what is in the case of Muhammad, what are the limitation of infallibility, and what's fallibility, and what's where he is an example or not an example, etc. in more detail, which because we have evidences now from the Quran about this, not only for reason like the basic one, but have more information. So that has to be addressed separately, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. Thanks.